Aloha and welcome back, everybody. This is going to be Julia McCoy. This is about the Venus Project inside the plan to redesign civilization from scratch. I've talked about the Venus Project and Jack Fresco a couple times on this platform. Plan on talking about him a lot more. Also, Buckminster Fuller, he didn't do the Venus Project, but he was a lot like Jack Fresco, if you will. And so, with no further ado,
imagine a world without money, without scarcity, and without the constant struggle for resources. Sound too good to be true? Well, that's exactly what Jacques Fresco envisioned with his idea of RBE, a resource-based economy, a socio-economic structure that could fit into a post-labor society when automation removes the need for manual labor. This is an inevitable byproduct of what's coming with automation. Over 2,700 AI researchers confirmed in January of 2023 that full job automation, from driving a truck to writing a bestseller, will be automated by the 2100s. But if we cross-reference that by the growth in GPT alone, we went from 2 to 3 in less than 2 years, and it was predicted that it would take us 50 to 80 years to achieve that. Well, I think we can expect full job automation by the robots sooner than 2100. Socioeconomics as we know it will have to completely change around the automation of manual labor. And I have a lot to say about...
See, I think socioeconomics should have already changed around the automation of labor. Back before the assembly line, people used to produce what one person could produce, right? Now the assembly line, people produce 10 to 100 times what one person would produce. And now with big machinery, like we talking about mining and stuff, we can do stuff with machines that we could never do. Like, especially you talk about a plane or flying, going up high, there's certain things that we couldn't do without machines no matter what. So our ability to produce now is so high that we should use that for the benefit of man, but we haven't changed our economic system, and so we still use capitalism, and we still got to use money rather than understanding how much resources we have and allocating resources.
About how we as humans can find and even rediscover our true passion and meaning for life in an age where technology takes away all the work that doesn't bring us meaning. But today we're going to focus on the resource-based economy that Jacques Fresco dreamed up back in the 1970s. And we're going to talk about the viability of it. Is it robust enough to be a contender for a new civilization in our post-labor economy? As I've studied the resource-based economy and Jacques Fresco's work at the Venus Project, I see an idealistically almost perfect economy. But is it too good to be true? Is it too idealistic? We're going to explore that in today's video. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Julia McCoy, the president of... So back to the topic, let's dive deep into the rabbit hole of a resource-based economy. All right, so first of all, let's compare RBE to the other concepts out there that you've probably heard of: UBI, Universal Basic Income, and UHI, Universal High Income. Universal income aims to provide basic needs and reduce poverty. It is an unconditional, universal, standard amount of money given to all citizens. Universal income aims to provide basic needs and reduce poverty. It is an unconditional, universal, standard amount of money given to all citizens. I've been exploring this topic on my channel. I think that as opposed to welfare programs that come with a lot of bureaucracy, that are not unconditional, that are set on a lot of conditions, that could be very stressful for already stressed people to have to go through. Universal basic income could be a good approach in a post-labor society. I think the pitfall of it is that people still need to work to find meaning, but they shouldn't be driven to work at a job they hate just because they need to pay the bills. This is a broken paradigm, and it really came from the Industrial Revolution. Humanity hasn't always functioned in this way. We used to tend the earth, we used to farm, we used to spend our days outside. Times have really shifted, and times are shifting again. Universal high income, unlike basic income, is the idea of providing people with a high standard of living. This has been proposed by Elon Musk, and it's the idea of, instead of a basic standard of living in a...
I find that odd. It's been proposed by Elon Musk, and then he's cutting all these jobs. Like, okay,
abundant standard of living for everyone, because robotics could give us the means that we need to redistribute abundance.
But I mean, I agree with the high standard of living for everyone.
Into the economy and into humanity. Now, the difference between UBI, UHI, and RBE is that the other two concepts still operate within a monetary system. Resource-based economy thinking does away with income altogether, and this is pretty radical. Jacques Fresco's idea of a resource...
So to me, it's like communism. But I don't know if I said that. I've tried to do this video about 4 or 5 times and had to start over. So, but anyway, to me, it's like communism. And they just didn't like the word communism because, like they said, he was in like the 60s or 70s doing this. And, you know, the Red Scare and whatnot, communism bad and all that. So, but basically, you know, allocating resources like a communist would do, or communism would do.
Resource-based economy is a complete overhaul of how society works. It's not just income distribution, which, like I said, does have some shortfallings. And I think the benefit of a resource-based economy is that it will put all of us in the mindset of resourceful, which we could lose if we just have some basic or even high level of income distributed to us without any encouragement or motive to seek meaning. A resource-based economy also focuses on direct resource allocation instead of just distributing money. I think the reason the idea of a resource-based economy hasn't caught on is that it is a systemic change. UBI and UHI can work within existing economic frameworks, but the idea of RBE is a fundamentally new system. I love that the idea of a resource-based economy inherently focuses in on sustainability and stewardship of our planet. These things aren't really addressed by UBI and UHI alone. You're going to have to put other policies in place along with those to foster this idea of sustainability, harvesting the earth, being stewards of what we're given. But of course, the big question, will a resource-based economy actually work in a post-AGI age? Jacques Fresco, the original visionary behind the idea of RBE, was born back in 1960. He actually lived to 101 years old. He was known as an American futurist, an industrial designer, and a social engineer. He dedicated his life to...
She said 1916, not 1960, if you heard, because I heard 1960, but he did live to be 101, and I know he was born before 1960.
Reimagining how society could function. It was the Great Depression that significantly shaped his worldview and influenced his ideas, leading him to a resource-based economy. He saw two things that he did not...
Okay, so I'm going to cut this in here. I know what she's talking about with Jacques Fresco and the Great Depression. This is him talking about the Great Depression. I've seen this a long time ago. So here we go.
And then during the Depression, there were 15 million people sleeping in every empty lot. That's a lot of people. What happened is they bought houses and cars, and the banks failed. You know what? They closed down. And they couldn't get their own money out, so they were kicked out of the buildings they bought. And they were sleeping in every empty lot, millions of Americans. And I looked around, and the stores had everything in the windows, you know, radios in those days, whatever people would need, but they had no money. So then I thought, there's something wrong with our system. You know, how can this happen in this country? I didn't have any answers, but there were people up on soapboxes talking about Mankind United, a new organization, technocracy, socialism, communism. Every part, everybody, every university, kids were talking about social change because conditions were bad. See, that brought them around to it. So at that time, I was going to hitchhike to Florida for other reasons because the winter was so cold, we didn't have heat. And I had to get to Florida, so in hitchhiking toward Florida, when I saw an old man walking with all his worldly goods on his shoulder, you know, they call him a bindle stiff. That's an impoverished person with all this worldly goods in a blanket, and he was shuffling very slow. So I called out to him. I wanted to help him carry that load because he can hardly walk. But I called out several times. He was also hard of hearing. And he turned around and he had acromegaly. You know what that is? elephant man disease. His face was all distorted. And as a kid, I didn't know what that was. And I was kind of shocked by that. And I kept hitchhiking till I got into, I think it was Savannah, Georgia. And I went to the local police station. And I said, I have no place to sleep. Can I sleep in a jail? They said, only if we fingerprint you. Well, since I didn't commit any crimes, I said, sure, go ahead. Then they put me in this jail with a dull red light. I must have been about 16 or so. And the toilet bowl had shit all over it. It was filthy. There was no place to sleep. It was dirty. So I just sat in the corner and looked at that red light. It was so depressing, you know. And then I heard moaning in the next cell. And I looked in there, it was this dull red light. It was this guy with acromegaly, the old man with a distorted face who couldn't speak. So I banged on the bars of the prison, and a trustee came over. He said, what do you want? I said, this old man belongs in a hospital, not prison. And he said, no good bum. These people seem to have no humanity at all. None. So I said, he belongs in the hospital. Well, shut up. And he went away. And I left the next day, and I met another kid my age, about 16 or so, and we both continued together. And the guy drove up in a fairly new-looking car, and he said, would you kids like to make a buck? So the kid that I was with said, I'd like to make a buck. What do you want me to do? So I want you to tell my girlfriend I can't see her Saturday. I'll be occupied. And so she'll give you a package for me. So what the note said, I found out later, the girl was a cashier at a movie theater. And the note that the kid gave to the girl was, if you don't give the kid all the money you've got there, we'll blow your head off. We got guns aimed at you. So the guy was using this kid, and this kid didn't know what the hell it was about. So the woman screamed, and the police came and took the kid away. I had nothing I could do. I was in rags myself. And I remember saying in my own head, boy, this shit's got to go. There's no such thing as justice or anything. You know, I realized that as a kid. I was alone, had no power at all. And then I continued to hitchhike on toward Florida. And in Florida they had, under Roosevelt administration, transit camp. That's for wild boys of the road. They weren't wild, they were just kids that had no place to go. Their families were dispossessed. We're moving in that direction now again. We're not there yet. And it was those conditions that helped me understand. Then came the crash of 1929, which began what we now call the Great Depression. I found it difficult to understand why millions were out of work, homeless, starving, while all the factories were sitting there. The resources were unchanged. It was then that I realized that the rules of the economic game were inherently invalid.
Okay, so if you didn't know anything about Jack Fresco, now you know a little bit.
Not understand an abundance of resources living in the earth in America, but widespread poverty and suffering inside the Great Depression era. And he really began to question the fundamentals of our economic system. Why is America so full of abundance and resources, but yet all these people are in suffering, extreme poverty, horrible living conditions? It didn't make sense to him. In 1975, Fresco founded the Venus Project, which is an organization dedicated to advancing his ideas about redesigning civilization as we know it. Inside of the Venus Project, he fostered and promoted the idea of a resource-based economy. The Venus Project is this 21-acre center in a pristine area of South Central Florida that almost appears to be untouched. Some of Jacques Fresco's work there include the idea idea of building homes in the shape of domes, which requires the least amount of material, is very easy to fabricate, and is in the shape of maximum strength and stability. It's constructed of concrete, so we don't have to take down forests to build it. It's insulated, soundproof, it can withstand storms. So the design configuration of these domes was pretty smart. I've read through some of his ebook called Designing the Future, and I believe that Jacques Fresco actually had some amazing ideas for how to rebuild civilization. He believes in this idea of creating an environment of abundance and even emotional security, and that we would be able to eradicate many negative patterns. This is on par with what studies show, that poverty is the problem, and that giving people conditional resources to get out of that poverty, and these conditions can be very restrictive, as seen in the 80+ welfare programs in the US alone. Well, that doesn't really help people get out of poverty. It doesn't give them the freedom, the encouragement, the belief in themselves, and the support they need to really make a better life for themselves. Jacques' idea in a nutshell was to take all the world's resources, the natural resources here on Earth, not money, and make it the common heritage of all of Earth's people. He believed that the real wealth of a nation is not its cash supply, but the developed and also potential resources and the people that work together towards the elimination of scarcity as a common goal.
See, if you're like a sci-fi nerd, this would be like going towards a class 1 civilization and then beyond class 2, obviously 3, 4. But we need to, if you just like science, if you just like people, we need to get beyond this money thing, right? Like, it just holds us back. It says what people cannot do. There's enough food for everybody. There's enough housing for everybody. There's enough healthcare there's enough school. Like, we might need more healthcare providers, like people, doctors, nurses, and stuff like that. But we just need people to be able to go to school and not cost so much, not cost anything. 'Cause why are we charging people to be smart? Why are we charging people to be doctors? Like, they should just be able to go to school and then fix us because they're doctors. Like, why do we want to make it hard to be a fixer of people? That doesn't make any sense.
For a more humane society, his idea was this: if people were stranded on an island with money, gold, diamonds, but there was no clean water, there was no fish to eat, how would these people survive? Wealth would be irrelevant to their survival. And if all the money in the world suddenly disappeared, but we still had topsoil, we still had the resources we need to plant, grow food, and we knew how to do these things, then we could survive anything. In an economy based on resources instead of money, the lives of the total population can be enhanced. He believed that the earth has natural abundant resources, and that if we simply steward these correctly with intelligent management, we would achieve a much better standard of living for everyone versus rationing these resources, he says, through the use of money. It's a radical idea, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a complete paradigm.
Well, through a resource-based economy, you're going to ration the resources, but ration them to where they need to be. When you have a money-based economy, it's rationed to where whoever has the most money. So right now, like, Elon Musk gets to choose where everything goes. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Zuckerberg, the top probably 100 people, whatever. I don't know all their names, but we all know the top 5 or 10 people, right? So yeah, if it's based on money, then just a few people that have all the money can say what happens to everything. But if it's based on resources and we all get a say, I would think that was better.
Shift. Because we have functioned on resources, productivity, outcome associated with income for so long. One of my favorite ideas in the resource-based economy was Jack's vision for education. He proposed that student performance should be based on competence, and that's how they should be accredited. And their research findings could be applied directly to the social structure of the world to benefit humanity. At its core, a resource-based economy is a system where all goods and services are available without the use of money, credits, barters, or any form of debt or servitude. But how does it work? Instead of money, this system directly distributes resources based on need and availability. In Jacques Fresco's vision, advanced technology and even AI.
So, see, rationed through need and availability rather than money. Because if it's needed by a lot of people and not highly available, still the rich people now will just take it. Like, what is it, insulin, right? That's highly available, actually, right? I think. I don't have to use it, so I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's easy to get. Just in America, it's really pricey. Everywhere else, it's really cheap, right? So that's in the system, in a resource-based economy system or in communism, you would just get what is it, insulin. But you just get your daily stuff or monthly dose or whatever.
Are used to distribute these resources and even manage them appropriately, which is an interesting idea because I believe that AGI will be a far better mathematical thinker, potentially even steward, manager of resources than any human because of its intelligence level. A resource-based economy is a holistic approach. Unlike the Industrial Revolution, which is built on productivity, this economy considers the well-being of humanity and the environment. Are we regenerating the earth? Are we implementing sustainable practices? And at the core of a resource-based economy, Jacques placed innovation. It was and is, in his idea, the core driver of all progress in this civilization. So, could it work? There's a few holes I want to poke in the resource-based economy. The first one is in the idea of access over ownership, which is a core piece of a resource-based economy. In this system, people have access to all the goods and services they need, but they may not ever own them. I think that any ideology which doesn't build up the individual and free will is a recipe for total dictatorship and producing slaves, and therein lies a great danger. However, the reason this could still work is because humanity won't need to work in servitude any longer with the automation of jobs. I do think we have to strip away all the beliefs we've ever had. We have to look past the political parties and the labels and ask what will work in an age of total automation, while yes, at the same time, trying to avoid giving one political party or one nation, one country that succeeds in uncovering AGI, well, we don't want them to be the dictator of the world. That is a problem we're going to have to work to avoid. We can only avoid that by coming together and aligning AGI from multiple places, lots of bright minds, multiple countries versus one dictatorship. That could go very, very wrong. So I believe there's hope. I still think there's time to align our nations, our countries, our beliefs, but it has to come from multiple directions, and we have to come together on these ideas. If we did, and we put together, and we thought through some of the principles of the resource-based economy, I love, for example, how it looks at the earth. Jacques Fresco had this idea of cities that were built with organic gardens surrounding each city. So every person living in their home could go out, cultivate that garden, work in the dirt, which is very therapeutic, harvest fresh vegetables, and all of that is so good for our health. I do think in a resource-based economy, the idea that Jacques had of education reform is something we very much need. The education system is so broken. It doesn't help our young people uncover their passion. It often kills their dreams and their passion. But I do question the overall transition from our current economy to a resource-based economy. Could we give up driving our nations according to capital and money and drive them according to resources? The bridge to that is so great, the collapse beforehand so probable, that I think it would be a very hard call for us to implement a resource-based economy successfully on a world scale. But again, the linchpin to that is the unexpected and total automation of all manual labor. Because of that paradigm shift, I still think that there's hope for a very irrational economy driver like resources instead of capital. Because we're going to have to pull out every card, every stop, and we're going to need to explore what works for humanity when there are no jobs. How do we get back to the meaning of life? How do we rediscover our passions? And a resources-led economy is, I believe, a path to help us do that. One of the ideas in this concept was the idea of more leisure time, which I am a fan of. As machines take over more labor, humans should have more time to just be, just exist. We don't get enough of that today. I have little kids at home, and I'd much rather sit and build a puzzle with them than chop up vegetables, spend an hour cooking. I can't wait for a humanoid in the kitchen to do that for me. What are your thoughts of a resource-based economy? Is it a utopia? Is it too good to be true? Or is it something that's actually viable for our coming age? I'd love to know in the comments. I'll see you there where we have great discussions.
I would also love to know in the comments. We've had some pretty great discussions ourselves. Also, like, share, and subscribe. So my thoughts on this: I don't think we should have, like I said, I don't think we should have to wait till all labor is done by robots or technology. Enough of it's done that everything that we need is there. We just need to allocate the resources around. And she said something about ownership. Like, if we don't own anything, that's a way to get to a great dictatorship or something. So it's the people own everything pretty much. But no one, you're going to own your own toothbrush, you're going to own your own clothes, you're going to own your own, like, most things. But what it is you would share a car. I read somewhere that a car sits 90% of its life. You only drive it 10% of the time that you have it, right? You just drive it to work, then it sits. You drive it home and it sits most of the time, right? So what you would do is put in the app or whatever. This is what time I work, this is whatever. So you would drive to work. Somebody would get in that car, then drive somewhere else. Then somebody get in that car and drive somewhere else. And then it would just keep going around. There'd be enough cars for everybody to just keep driving around. And then the system would tell you what car to get in and when and whatnots, right? And so, like, and then, so say like you have lifetime ownership of stuff. Like, say you live in a house or dome or wherever you live. You have that for as long as you're alive, right? And as you grow, your kids will get older and go out and get their own house and whatnot. And then when you die, they'll take the house and either let somebody else have it, or maybe it'll be time to bring it up and do something with it, make a garden or make a different house. Maybe there's new technology, new something, whatever. And so it's like about how to make it a world thing and the transition. China's already doing a big thing like that with the BRICS, right? With the Belt and Road Initiative. We need to get more on board with the Global South, the communist nations, Cuba, all these people. BRICS has, I think it's close to 60 nations now or something like that. But they got a lot of nations. Like, we don't like to mess with Africa, act like they're not cool or whatever. But we need to bring everybody in and be more open source. Technology needs to be more shared than held. Like, we need to stop holding technology from people and let the poors get to see stuff when they're young and get to add their initiative to it and their imagination and whatnot. Oh, and like, we have more empty homes in America than we have homeless people. We just need to do housing first. There's certain things that we just need to do. And so, like, when we get to a place where we actually do have no jobs, if it's like that, then what we would do, like she said, is our passion. We would coach kids. You would work with adults, teach a lot. Almost everybody would just be a teacher. Teach whatever you know, whatever you like to either you like kids or you like adults or whatever age you like to work with and teach that. But also, I think it'd be really cool. We could do like sports leagues. Everybody who wanted to play a sport could play. If you make the all-star in your local sports league, or you win the championship in your local sports league, then you can move up to like the city league, whatever. Then you can move up to like the state league or whatever. And then after that, you move to the national league. And then I think that would be a way to really find merit in sports, right? Because then everybody would have a chance to do it, right? Nowadays, if you don't go to college or you don't have certain things, certain money to do certain things, you can't do it. And also with that, in sports, kids would be allowed to be able to play hockey, would be able to play sports that cost more. I know hockey costs more, baseball costs a little more, I think. But I mean, you could just use a stick and a rock, and that's what you can get good at that. Oh, football. Football costs more. It has a lot of equipment and whatnot. So again, the passion stuff, sports stuff. Yeah, so that's my quick ideas on that. We'll do more of the Venus Project and whatnot. But I really think that a resource-based economy, communism, socialism, whatever you want to label it, is much better than capitalism. It's how we start, and then everybody is a communist at home. You don't charge nobody nothing, and you might like want to teach your kids stuff, and you tell them, oh, you got to do these chores to get this or whatever. But still, when it comes down to it, especially before you're 4 years old, right? Everybody is communism with them. It's just going to be free. They just do their thing because they can't do nothing else. And then when you get older, hopefully you can. If you can, you take care of your parents, things like that. But with your family, you're going to be more communist. I think it was on the PBD show, Patrick Bet David. One of them said, you're a communist with your family. You're a friend. Oh, he said, I'm a communist with my family. I'm a friend. I'm a socialist with my friends. I think he said maybe a libertarian in my state politics, and then I'm a capitalist in my nation politics or global politics or something like that. But the closer net, he said communism was good, right? But as it got bigger, you're not like family no more. I mean, we're like Jock said, we're all one big family, man. We got one home. It's called Earth. If they mess it up over there, it messes up for us. If we mess it up over here, it messes up for everybody. Like, we've been polluting and putting all that plastic in the garbage patches and stuff like that. But, we're going to keep moving. And, hey, that's why I support the Green Party. I think you guys should look into the Green Party. We're more going to be like this than the Democrats will be ever. And so, yeah, just keep on coming back, getting information from across the spectrum.